Good morning. How many of you went to the party last night? Not a single one of you? One! Oh, two. Look at that. This is why you actually are able to get up in the morning, because you didn't go to the party? Yeah, me neither. Thank you so much for coming to see me. I know I'm up against some really great speakers and even a legend, so thank you. I am going to talk about designing for speech. Now, why is this important? Well, actually, let me start by asking you a question. How many of you have ever talked to Cortana, Siri, Alexa, or anything like that? That's almost every single one of you. Good for you. And this is actually one of the points I'm trying to make. We are all doing this today. That's why it's going to be so much more important to know what we're doing and doing our stuff good, right? Today we talk to our user interfaces everywhere. We even control our lights, and we can even talk to our cars and things like that. And voice user interfaces are growing in a really rapid pace. I mean, we talk to our phones, we talk to devices like smart speakers and things like that. You guys have that in UK, right? You get Alexa and Google Home? Yeah, awesome. In Sweden, where I'm from, we get some of the devices, so we have to be a little bit more smart about how we get them. We're too tiny of a country, I think. But all of mankind, I was going to say, but not all humans actually like talking to their devices. It can be a little bit awkward. I take it, since you are here and you're developers, you are usually jumping on the train really fast when it comes to technology. But most people don't. So sometimes when they actually try to talk to their virtual assistants, it might be a little bit insecure-ish, so they don't know what exactly to say, so they might mumble a little bit, which makes the experience so much worse for them, because if you're not handling that kind of thing, they might think that voice isn't all that. So this is why it's actually important to design it good from the beginning. All the big companies are making huge investments in virtual assistants or digital personal assistant, whatever you want to call it. We have Amazon, who has Alexa. We have Google with Google Assistant. Apple has Siri. Microsoft has Cortana, just to name a few. But why is it getting so much popular? How many words per minute do you guys think that we type per minute? So on average, words per minute, how many words do we type? Any takers? 40. 100? That's a big difference. Actually, 40 is spot on, so really good. Of course, most of you are probably a little bit faster because you're used to the computer and things like that, but still, on average, we type 40 words per minute. How many do you think we actually speak per minute? 100? Quite good guess. 150 on average. Some speak more than others, but still. Actually, if you're an auctioneer, you speak like 300 words per minute. So even if you're like an expert typer, you will talk faster than you type. And also, we learn from a really early age, most of us, how to speak, and we continue to speak basically every day. So this is something that we already learned. We don't have to learn different layouts and keyboards and things like that. And also, why would I want to take my phone, swipe over, start my browser, go to a search engine and type in a question when I actually just can say, hey, Cortana, when is the next Avenger movie premiering? Because it's so much faster. So let's look at some predictions for the future. By the year 2020, 50% of all searches will be made by voice. Imagine how much you search. Half of that will be by voice in just 2 years. 30% of all searches will be done without a screen at all. So with voice-first devices like the Echo Dot or similar, even your smartwatch. 75% of all US households will have a smart speaker at home. And I'm sorry I'm localizing this to US. I'm not from the US, but this is the only data I actually can find. So 75% of all US households will have a smart speaker in 2 years. Today, 40% of all adults actually talk to a voice user interface at least once per day. That's at least once per day. I'm doing it a little bit more, but still. Cortana has over 145 million monthly users. And this number is a little bit interesting. First of all, it's the latest number I have, but it's still a little bit old, so it's probably a lot more. But this is active user per month. So if you use it every month, you're in this number. The Echo Dot, which houses Alexa, was the best-selling product of all of Amazon, all categories, this holiday season. They sold tens of millions of devices. Tens of millions. Now, we tried to actually figure out exactly how many Echo Dots there are out there, but it is impossible because they are keeping the numbers really secretive. But it's a lot. Google Assistant is now available for over 400 million devices. You can even have it on your television today. And 95% of all people that has a smartphone actually has used the virtual assistant on it. We as developers can actually take advantage of this. I mean, they're already talking, right? So this morning, I will go through what you need to think about before you even start to develop your voice user interface, how to plan it out, and a couple of considerations that can be good to think about to get the most out of your voice user interface. My goal is to give you some tools and understanding of how to start developing a voice user interface in a really good way so you can actually get ahead of the competition already. My name is Jessica Engström. I'm a Windows development MVP. Together with my husband in the audience, I actually have a company which is focused on future tech. Yeah, I know, it's a buzzword. But we are actually working with things like HoloLens, bots, and also UX, because we think that UX will be so much more important in the future, especially if we take away all the screens and talk to them. Because if that doesn't work, people will rage quit. We also have a podcast, which is called Coding After Work, so if you're interested in that, please tune in. I have been talking to our house and computers for a little bit over 16 years now. Granted, in the beginning, it wasn't all that, but it was super cool because we could say, just like in Star Trek, computer, dim lights, and sometimes it actually worked. We had, you remember those almost like microphones like this you had on the desktop for your computer? We had those in the ceiling. That's how you did it back then. I have a lot of material to go through, so if you have any questions, please save them to the end and I will be happy to hear them. Nowadays, we talk to our devices even with really small screens or without screens, like your Microsoft Band, if you still are lucky enough to have them, or on other smartwatches and stuff like that. So we don't have to cram in a full-blown UI into that device if you have a really small screen, and that's a relief, right? If a user doesn't know how to navigate your application or a bot or whatever you want to call it, they can actually ask for help. And the device will tell them, and that is so much easier for you guys, and it's also easier for the user, so it's a win-win situation. So before we even start to plan out our voice user interface, we need to ask us a question, a very important question, and that is, will the user benefit from a voice user interface? It's a really, really important question. Because even if voice user interface is the new black or orange or whatever color it is in now, we can't just cram it into everywhere if it doesn't fit, because it will feel awkward. So it should only be, you should only have a voice user interface if it's actually giving the user a better experience somehow, or the same experience, if you will. And voice user interfaces will continue to become even better and better, and you can actually be a part of this revolution. And I call it a revolution because if you look at the numbers, we are going like a little bit, and then skyrocketing. So it will be a revolution. Large companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon actually have frameworks that you can use to make it easier to develop a bot or voice user interface for their platforms, which makes our lives a little bit easier. So let's think about, when is a voice user interface a good thing? When is a good thing? Well, if I'm going out and I don't want to look out the window and I ask Alexa if I need an umbrella today, that's good. It might not be raining now, right? Or if I'm driving in the car and I want to book an appointment or make a call or something like that, and we all know we shouldn't drive and text at the same time, right? Then it's perfect. I actually can do all of those things today in our house. I can turn on the lights and things like that, but the most important thing is I can do so without awkwardness or embarrassment, because sometimes voice user interface isn't a good idea. So when is it not? Well, let's say you have like an embarrassing illness or something you're embarrassed of, and all of a sudden on the bus, a voice comes out and say, "Don't forget to take your medicine for," insert your illness here. That's not a good idea. That's when you want to do that. Or if I tell my virtual assistant that, "Please show me all the documents I was working on yesterday." Problem is, in the office, we all use Cortana for the Windows 10 virtual assistant. So everybody all of a sudden sees their documents they were working on yesterday. Granted, most of, or well, not most of it, but some of the the assistants can actually be tuned in to listen just to your voice. So that can be avoided, but it's not always the case. But what if you're in the supermarket and you have you're really bored and you're in the line and you want to read up some text, but you forgot that you have your earplugs unplugged, and it starts reading up really sensitive material from your workplace. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So if you're handling sensitive information or information that someone can interpret as embarrassing, voice user interface isn't a good idea. Speaking of ideas, you're going to need one. A good way to think about it is that think about your idea and why you are best at that idea. Because this is a common problem, not only when it comes to voice user interface, but also apps and other things like that. We tend to want to be the next Instagram or the next Facebook or Twitter or whatever. We want to make it as big as possible, which sometimes means that the pizza app also can tell fart jokes, the weather, and you can tweet about it. So all of a sudden, you don't even know what the main focus is of that app. So a good way to actually think is what your solution is going to be best at. So try saying, my app is best in its category at, then you fill in with a short descriptive sentence. And the sentence shouldn't be at being an app, because that's not helpful. So try to be as specific as possible. Like if you are doing an app for departure times, you could say, my app is best in its category at departure times for buses. Or even better, you can narrow it down and say, finding departure times for the user that is closest to them, because many of these devices are actually location aware, so we can do that. Then I have narrowed it down to what I'm going to be best at. And being this specific actually helps you to sort out the different focus areas you need to focus on and not focus on in the first version. Then you can add on Twitter and fart jokes or whatever you want to do. But this will make your solution a little bit more unique and stand out from the crowd, so you can actually concentrate on what is important for the user. Also try finding out why you are going to be better than the competitors in that area, and include that in your best at statement, like why are you going to be unique in this? And this is important when adding voice, otherwise we might end up with that weather app that tells fart jokes and you don't know which is which, right? Might be fun, but it makes no sense. Except in Swedish, we say, instead of fart, we can say let go of weather or something like that. So maybe in Swedish it's fun, but not anywhere else. So now we have an awesome idea. We know what makes us unique, and it's time to start planning. So a really good way to start your process is to write some sample dialogues. And this is like an overview of the interactions between the user and the voice user interface. And this is a good way to see what the system is going to say to the user at all times. But also look at it as conversations rather than this is send flowers to someone and this is do this and this is do that. What am I going to say in this different times? Look at it as you're going to have a conversation so it doesn't sound stilted later. So pretend that you're writing a movie script. That's a really good way to actually plan this out. So pick like the 5 most important things in your app that you can do and start writing your script. Also, pick 5 or so things that can happen when things go wrong. Like if the internet go down or you don't understand the user, and write down how it would go in the worst case scenario. When you have written your script, if you will, read it out loud. Preferably, you can ask a friend or a coworker to read one part and you read the other part, because this is when you're going to catch those phrases that will become a little bit stale or off. Because sometimes when you write, it looks really, really good and it sounds good in your head, but when you actually are speaking, that's not the way you're talking, right? So that's a really good idea. So when you're done with the sample dialogues, it starts to sketch out your voice user interface flow. And this is simply diagrams that illustrates the different paths that can be taken throughout your app. Well, the branches, if you will. So let's say we're designing a skill, and this is, when you're designing for voice user interfaces, it's usually called skill, actions, apps, bots. It's basically the same thing. So in this way, we call it a skill. And we're going to design a skill for showing departure times for buses. There are many ways I can ask that question as a human. This is just a few of them. And if I handle this, I can make sure that the user actually can speak in a natural way and I don't have to force the syntax on them, which makes it a little bit more easy for them to interact with you. All these different ways you can say things is sometimes called utterances. But we don't need to sketch out every single utterance. Instead, we group them together in intents. So the intent is to get the latest, when the next bus leaves, right? So we group them together and we sketch it out. If you are doing a larger app, an app that has a lot of data like a huge FAQ, or if we take Cortana or Siri, for instance, they don't need to sketch out every single intent. Instead, you group them in different topics, like you have book calendars, you have messaging, or you have one topic for your FAQ and another topic for your FAQ, so you actually can manage and sketch this out. Another thing you need to think about when designing for speech is if you're going to use visuals as well. And actually, you need to ask yourself, will the app or platform you're developing for even have a screen, like a cell phone or a smartwatch or similar to that? If it doesn't have a screen, do you want to opt out of the possibility to actually project to a screen? For instance, the Alexa or Echo Dot, it can actually project to a screen. If you're talking, the Echo Dot doesn't have a screen, but it can project to a screen. So you need to decide if you want to opt out or in of that. And if you have a screen, do you want to support that? That's also a decision. Do you want to use a visual avatar, like a mascot or a representative that represents your brand or company? Like you probably have seen the chatbot. Sometimes there's a guy or a girl sitting there looking like they're talking to you, right? That's also a decision you have to make. Some people think it's more comfortable talking to someone they can actually see, even if it's a sketched avatar. A visual representation can make it more clear to the user so they can understand what they can do when they're expected to talk, if they understand what I'm saying and things like that. It can also give hints. Like if you didn't get a response, you can have, please state your state of emergency or something. So they actually know that it's their turn to talk. If we decide to have a visual representation as well, no matter which one you're picking, it's very important that it goes hand in hand with this speech part of the app. So you don't end up with one voice user interface and one user interface that doesn't work together. So don't just use it in the beginning or in the end. Use it throughout all of the process. Otherwise, it can be a little bit confusing for the user. Am I supposed to look at my screen now, or no, right, that was later. So that's something to think about as well. If you decide that it is a good idea to have visuals, then it's really good to sketch them out or do mock-ups. And this doesn't have to be beautiful. It can be blocks and scribbles, and God knows I don't know how to draw for the life of me, but I still sketch it out. It's just for you, so you can know exactly what the user will see throughout the stages of your application. So let's say we are ordering a pizza with the help of a voice interface, okay? So I say, I want to order a large pepperoni pizza, please. And they say, 1 large pepperoni pizza, is that correct? Yes. Okay, adding 1 large pepperoni pizza to your order. Place order. Your order is 1 large pepperoni pizza. Shall I place the order? Yes. Now I'm really hungry, right? And the order is on its way. And this is basically how it goes today. But if we instead use the help of visuals, it could go something like this instead. I want to order a large pepperoni pizza, please. 1 large pepperoni pizza, is that correct? And now, instead of waiting for the answer from the user, we can show an image. So this is the visual. And I order a large pepperoni pizza, right? If you can see this, this is a chicken bacon ranch pizza. So already I, as a user, can know that this is the wrong pizza and I can change it, or I can place order. But what it also does, it gives me a little bit more time to ask my husband, did you want some salad to that, or is this okay? Because if you are doing voice only, there will be a timeout. Eventually, you have to stop listening, right? But here, you can just leave this up, so I can pick it up whenever I'm ready to. And I can also remove the item because it was wrong from the beginning. Or I can talk to it, but still, gives me a little bit more time. And this is also a way to confirming that they understood or didn't understood. In this case, they didn't, because pepperoni pizza sounds so much like bacon chicken pizza, right? So we need to make sure that the user knows that we did understand or didn't understand them, and this is really important. So we need to think about confirmation. And there are a few ways to think about confirmation. If you're designing for devices that doesn't have a screen, how you confirm things will be so much more important because they can't see that that pizza is wrong, right? So we can look at confidence thresholds. A confidence threshold is basically what we get back from the speech recognition engine, and it is how the speech engine think they performed or understood you. So if I say, order me a dollhouse, the confidence may vary. They know, they heard that, but they don't know if they're really sure. Like, are they 90% sure or 45% sure? We can handle that by looking at the confidence threshold. So have you heard about the girl and the dollhouse and Alexa? Awesome, you have it. Yeah, a few of you, but not all of you. So this girl was the luckiest girl ever. Her mom actually got an Alexa, and this girl loved to talk to her because she got a response and everything. And one day she asked her if she wanted to play dollhouse with her and get her a dollhouse. Lo and behold, she got the Tesla of dollhouses. If there's a dollhouse you want, this is the one. Of course, she was super happy. Her mom's credit card wasn't that happy. But the story doesn't end here, because apparently there wasn't much news happening in the world that day or that week. So the local news got a hold of this news and went and interviewed this girl. And then the anchor came back from the clip, and she said, "I can't believe how smart that girl was to say, Alexa, order me a dollhouse." Yeah, you see what's happening here, right? All of the people that had an Alexa watching this newscast, allegedly they sold out of the dollhouses. I'm not sure to the truth of that. I can't find any truth or false regarding this, but anyway, it goes to show how important it is to actually listen to the confidence threshold. If we look at the confidence, if they had looked at the confidence threshold on Order Me a Dollhouse, the confidence would have been lower because this is a child. Her vocal cords aren't developed yet. That's why kids are always lower on the confidence threshold. So what they should have done, and what they probably are doing today, is look at the threshold. Like if it's between, let's say, 45 and 80%, then you should use an explicit confirmation and say, "I think you want me to order a dollhouse. Is that correct?" And it would have saved the mom a lot of money. And if it's lower than 45, you could have said, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat?" And if you're really daring, you could, if it's over 80%, you could just say, "The dollhouse is on its way." And don't take these numbers like the law, because it's just a made-up number. So you actually have to look at those yourself. If you're daring enough to send it out, if you're 50% sure, go ahead. But there will be a newscast probably, which might be a good thing. So another way to confirm is to always confirm things implicitly. So without double checking with the user. So for example, we say, "What is the best superhero movie?" They would of course say Deadpool. What would be a little bit awkward was if they're going to say, "I think you said you want me to tell you the best superhero movie, is that correct?" "Yes." "Oh, it's Deadpool." That's just awkward. So then we can use this implicit confirmation instead. Burger King, they had an ad in the US. Did you guys get this ad here? No? Awesome. TV ads are really expensive, so they bought a 15-second ad. because they also wanted to make the most out of it. So let's look at this video.
You're watching a 15-second Burger King ad, which is unfortunately not enough time to explain all the fresh ingredients in the Whopper sandwich. But I got an idea. Okay, Google, what is the Whopper burger?
According to Wikipedia, the Whopper is a hamburger consisting of a flame-grilled quarter-pound beef patty, sesame seed bun, mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, pickles, ketchup, and sliced onion.
Kind of nice, right? Smart way to actually invoke that. If you control the data. You might have noticed they said, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, who updates Wikipedia? Well, it's not Burger King. So they quickly realized that people actually could change that, so this happened.
According to Wikipedia, the Whopper is a burger consisting of a flame-grilled patty made with 100% medium-sized child with no preservatives or fillers, topped with sliced tomatoes, onions, lettuce, cyanide, pickles, ketchup, and mayonnaise, served on a sesame seed bun.
Yeah, so it might not be the best idea if you don't control the data, right?
You're watching a 15-second...
So what they tried to do was go in, because Burger King realized that this is not good, so they went in and edited again, so they probably had some intern that had to look at Wikipedia all the time. It ended up with Google stopped to invoke on that ad. So it didn't work out that well in the end anyway. Sometimes you need or want your voice user interface to perform a task for you, like turning on and off the lights or things like that. Do we then have to confirm that we are going to turn on the light, or is it good enough that the light actually just turns on? Well, you need to decide that for yourself, but there's a couple of things to think about when it comes to this non-speech method. For instance, if it's something that will take a few seconds to complete, like the lights actually take a few seconds to come on or go off, then it's good if you have some type of confirmation that you did understood or not. The Echo Dot has a red ring. It doesn't say anything, but it has a red ring if you didn't understand what you're saying. Or if I ask them to turn on the light, she will say, okay, and that's it. She will not say, okay, I will turn on the living room lights for you. So it's good to have something if it takes a few seconds. Especially when it comes to things like the heater or a water kettle or things like that you actually can't see in the beginning. You won't notice if the heater is on at least for a half an hour or so. So then it's even more important. Sometimes we don't even have to act on the information given. That's good. Perhaps we have a little bit more open dialogue. Like if I have an app that wakes me up in the morning, I turn off the alarm and the voice says, good morning, how is your day? And I can say, oh, it's good, thank you. And then we don't have to act on that. We can give them a more generic answer like, thank you for sharing. So we don't have to parse through that data to have a precise answer to that. I was called out during, I did this talk at Dev Intersection. I was called out by one guy, and he said, are you really that nice to your bots at home? Like, do you say please and thank you? I don't believe you. I'm like, yeah, I do. I actually do. For two reasons. One, I'm nice. Two, when the uprising comes, they will kill me last. So I'm actually that nice to the bots. Visual confirmation, we already talked about that. That's exactly what the pizza app did. It can also be things like they say out loud, did you take your vitamins today? But they show yes or no button. So you can choose if you want to say yes or no, or if you want to press the buttons. That's also a way to use that. Or it could be like, hey, Cortana, show me my to-do list. You could start to read out all my 4,500 to-dos, But that would take like a couple of weeks, right? So it might be a good idea to actually show it like that in a visual. And if I'm asking my Invoke Cortana speaker, she can show it on my phone or my computer as well. This makes it a little bit more easy for me to actually consume the data. There are a few other things to consider when designing for a voice user interface. Are you going to have a command and control or a conversational mode? Conversational interfaces. How many of you have heard that ever? Yeah, we hear it every day, everywhere. Everything is conversational, right? So what is it really? I recently talked to Cortana. I told you I'm nice to my, my bots, right? So it looked a little bit like this. I asked her who she was and how old she is. She's actually turning 4 soon. Where she's from and how she's doing, and she's excellent, by the way. And she has the best superhero ever as a favorite. And she can turn into Yoda. How cool is that? And now it skipped a bit. There we go. She loves her job, and then we finished off. So did I just have a conversation with her? Or did we just have a bunch of one-offs? And this is a funny thing. We had a bunch of one-offs, but I thought we had a conversation. But if we look at all the voice user interfaces, well, not all, but most of them, it is only a bunch of one-offs. It's usually not conversational. There are a few exceptions, like Alexa, Cortana, and Google Assistant has a few exceptions where you actually can have a real conversation, but constrained. For instance, if I order another dollhouse and I tell Alexa, order me a dollhouse, she will say, last time you bought this giant, super, really cool dollhouse, you want the same thing again. So she will remember what I bought before, so I can get the same brand. And that is kind of the main point. She remembered what I've talked about before. So if you sit and talk to your friend and you're like, I was just in Vegas this last weekend. It was amazing. They had tigers, they had drinks and all the parties, and it was amazing. And then you say, oh, I really want to go. And then I say, come on, let's go next month. And you're like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Because if we're going to have that conversation, you need to remember that when I say go there, I mean Las Vegas. So that is the key point. You need to remember to have a conversation. So if you want to be a little bit more constrained and not handle all the natural language understanding yourself, you can use the command and control mode instead, which it's a little bit easier than doing the next Cortana and Alexa. And this means that you have a series of commands that the user can do. But in this mode, it's really important that you're careful on how you ask the question. Don't have open questions like, hi, I'm the pizza bot, how can I help you today? Or, hi, I'm your assistant, how can I help you today? Because that, for me, who's used to Siri, Cortana, Alexa, Google, and all of those, I think you can order me a movie ticket. You can book a plane ticket. You can show me what my to-do list is. But all you can do is actually order pizza. So it's a better way to say, for instance, hi, I'm the pizza bot. Do you want a pizza today? Or are you hungry today? Or something like that. So you actually steer where the conversation is going. This is going on a Fritzy. There we no. Don't know what happened here. Too many Bluetooth devices, perhaps. So you can also give them clues, like Cortana is doing here. They say, hey, try saying, are you a ninja? I know the answer, but I'm sworn to secrecy, so you actually have to ask her yourself. But this is a way to give the user a little bit more positive mindset about how to learn what you can do for them in your app. Discoverability is another really important thing. How do the user know that they can talk to your app, or how do they know what they can say, for instance? So I've been a long-time Windows Phone user. I only stopped using it because you can't get them anymore and it broke. So I went to the other side, sadly, and got an Android. I had no clue how an Android works, right? No clue at all. I'm used to Windows Phone, that's all I know. So all of a sudden I discovered that if I say cheese in my camera app, it will actually automatically take a picture. But there was no prior learning to how to do that. I didn't know it. I couldn't even read about it in the phone setting or the camera setting or something like that. I actually looked for it later. I accidentally found out. That's not discoverability, right? But it's a really smart way of piggybacking off the natural speech that the user is using. I was going to say cheese anyway, so let's use that. So that's a really clever way. You can also give smart examples when you're asking questions. For instance, America tends to switch around the dates. You guys do a year, month, date, right? Or date, month, year. Yeah, awesome. That's the correct way. Oh, this is recorded. Yeah, well, anyway, so let's say if you say, please tell me your date of birth with the month, day, and year. Then you need to try to remember what order did they say it, and okay, month, that's January, and it will take a little bit longer for me to actually convert that to my date. If you instead say, please tell me your date of birth, such as January 29th, 1975, it would be so much easier to actually just switch out for your numbers instead, or your dates instead, so I don't have to actually think about it. So it's a little bit easier if you translate it a more generic answer. But sometimes discoverability isn't enough, and the user wants to know more commands that you can provide them with. So make sure that the user can actually ask for help. You could, if you have visuals, show them a full list or for one topic or things like that of what commands they can actually use. Or you can also read them out loud and say, this is, you read like 3 of them, because if you read like 100 of them, that will take forever. So if you read 3, you can say, do you want to know what else I can do, so they can opt in to continue. Another important thing is constrained responses. If I ask the system, if the system asks, do you want me to order a pizza? I'm constrained to yes or no. That's it. I don't know is not an answer, right? But what happens if the users say, yep, okay, or something like that? If you don't handle that, you won't get a yes, and you won't sell any pizzas. So we need to think about that. Another question like, what is your favorite animal, is also constrained, even though we have lots and lots of animals. But if you constrain it too much to, let's say, just cats and dogs, you might miss raccoons, which is super cute. Just look at those. We don't want to miss that, right? Yeah, it's actually Jimmy's, my husband's favorite animal. And he is trying to get one. And it's illegal in Sweden. He's super mad about it. So if anyone knows a dealer of raccoons in Sweden, don't call us. Well, what we can do here is we look at, we look at the recognition engine, what they return to us. They return something called an n-best list. And I won't go really deep into this, but this is basically the same thing as confidence. So let's say we ask about what is your favorite animal, and they answer, I think it's a raccoon. But this is what we get back. Now, we can parse through this, and we know that raccoon is an animal and balloon is not, unless it's a balloon animal, I guess. I don't know. It's not in the zoo anyway. So that means that even though balloon has a more higher confidence, we can still get that raccoon is the best animal ever. No, that's cats. Just to make sure. Do we have anyone from Scotland here today? One, okay. I don't know if I'm going to apologize, but I'm on your side, okay? Good. So this video is a prime example of what can happen if you are not considering the different types of responses. It's a bit long, but it's hilarious, so bear with me, okay?
What's the buttons?
Oh no, they installed voice recognition technology in this lift. I heard about this.
Voice recognition technology? In a lift? In Scotland? You ever tried voice recognition technology?
No.
They don't do Scottish accents.
11.
Could you please repeat that?
11.
11. 11.
11.
Could you please repeat that?
11.
Whose idea was this? You need to try an American accent. 11. 11.
That sounds Irish, not American.
What, doesn't it? 11.
Where in America is that? Dublin?
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that?
Try an English accent, right? 11. 11.
You for the same part of England as Dick Van Dyke?
Let's hear yours then, smart ass.
Please speak slowly and clearly.
Smart ass.
11.
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that?
11. If you don't understand the lingo, away back home to your own country.
Ooh, is that talk now, is it? Away back to your own country?
Oh, don't start, Mr. Bleeding Heart. How can you be racist to a lift?
Please speak slowly and clearly.
11. 11. 11. 11.
You're just saying it the same way.
You want to keep saying it until I understand Scottish, all right? 11. 11. 11. 11.
I'll just say it's anywhere, you cow. Just open the doors.
This is a voice-activated elevator. Please state which floor you would like to go to in a clear and calm manner.
Calm. Calm. Where's that coming from? Why is it telling people to be calm?
Because they knew they'd be selling this to Scottish people who'd be going up for nuts at it.
You have not selected a floor.
Aye, we have! 11!
If you would like to get out of the elevator without selecting a floor, simply say, "Open the doors, please."
Please? Please? Suck my wally.
Maybe we should just say please.
I'm not begging that for nothing.
Open the doors, please.
Please? Pathetic.
Please remain calm.
Oh, fine! What do you want up tonight? Get up now! Hey, just wait for it to speak.
You have not selected a floor.
Ah, mules, you cow! You don't let us through these doors. I'm going to come to America. I'm going to find whatever desperate actress gave you a voice, and I'm going to go in an electric chair for you.
Scotland, you bastard!
Scotland!
Scotland!
Scotland! Freedom!
Going up?
I will be the dark-haired guy. Totally. I'm from south of Sweden, so I'll have a bit of different dialect as well. But yeah, this is a prime example of what happens. Are you okay? I saw tears before. No. Poor guys. sometimes, if you are not developing for mainstream voice user interfaces like Alexa and Google and all of those platforms, you might have your own implementation, right? So then you might think about using text-to-speech if you want that computery voices, which can sound really cool, of course. But you can also think about if you want to record snippets of words or sentences so you can get a little bit more natural language to the users. Other things to consider is, will you have a push-to-talk button, or do you want to listen all the time like Alexa does, but doesn't actually do something until you invoke, use the invoke name, which is Alexa in this case. There are, of course, a lot more to think about when you're doing your own thing, but this is a good start. Do we have any questions before I summarize? No? Awesome. Clear as day. So, to summarize, think things through before you even start. Will the end user benefit from a voice user interface? And start your planning with sample dialogues and flow and visual mock-ups so you actually know what's going on. And consider all the other ways you can enlighten the experience for your users and your solution. I hope that I have given you some tools and a little understanding on how to think when designing for speech so you can actually get ahead of the competition. And I will leave you with a story on how wrong things can go if you don't think things through all the way. There is this guy in Springfield, Missouri. He's kind of like me and my husband. He loves gadgets. He loves home automation, so he's probably a little lazy just like me. He realized that he needs to upgrade his house because it was a little bit dumb, if you will. So he went to the store and he bought basically everything that had the text works with Apple HomeKit. He bought, I think it was 20 Philips Hue. He bought Ecobee thermostats and temperature sensors and August smart lock so he could actually let in his dog walker from his work on his phone instead of actually giving him the key, which is not secure, right? And he had his prized possession, his iPad, in the center of his home, on the best place in the living room where he can control everything from. He was so proud, so he went home and he started to connect everything, and he invited his friend and neighbor over, and he showed him everything. Look at this. I can sit here with a beer in my hand and say, hey Siri, turn on the kitchen lights, and it will just go on. And I can even unlock my door. I don't have to use keys anymore because if my phone is close to my door, Siri will know and unlock it for me. I live in the future. And his friend was super impressed. And then they went about their evening, and the next day, the guy comes home from work. He's driving home from work, and he's in the parking area, and he sees his neighbor, and the neighbor says, hey, can I borrow some flour from you? And he's like, yeah, sure, just let me park and grab my things. He's like, no need, I can open myself. And he went up to the door and he said, hey Siri, open the door. Imagine the face on that guy when he realized that his friend just unlocked his door when he's still in the car. So use what I've taught you today and go out there and make the next generation of voice user interface awesome. Thank you.